Something's changed when a 12-year-old can ruin an entire Saturday because of one selfie. Not a failed exam, not bullying, not getting grounded. A selfie. I knew we were in trouble the day I watched a child take 42 pictures just to decide they were too ugly to go eat pancakes. Pancakes! Imagine canceling syrup over your left eyebrow. That's not vanity anymore. That's emotional hostage negotiation. And parents miss it all the time because body dysmorphia doesn't always arrive wearing dramatic makeup and crying in the bathroom. Sometimes it walks in quietly, a hoodie in hot weather, refusing family photos, obsessively fixing hair every 3 minutes, asking, "Do I look weird?" 15 times a day, like they're conducting a police investigation on their own face. And heaven help you if you answer wrong. What scares me most is this: today's kids are growing up in a world where their appearance is no longer just appearance, it's social currency, status, proof of worth. Their faces aren't just faces anymore, they're projects, brands, performance reviews. And the worst part? Some kids genuinely look in the mirror and see a completely distorted version of themselves, while the adults around them keep saying, "It's just a phase." Sometimes it is. Sometimes it absolutely isn't. The dangerous thing about body dysmorphia is that it rarely starts with one giant dramatic moment. It creeps in like a bad app update, quietly, slowly. Suddenly, everything starts glitching, and nobody knows when it happened. One minute your child is normal about getting ready for school. Next minute, they're standing in front of the mirror, turning their head left and right like they're being examined for a passport photo that determines the fate of civilization. And parents usually explain it away. Oh, teenagers are insecure. Well, yes, teenagers have been insecure since cave people invented reflective puddles. That part is normal. But dysmorphia is different. Insecurity visits. Dysmorphia moves into the basement and starts paying rent. I remember hearing about a teenage girl who became convinced one side of her face was crooked. Nobody else could see it. Not her friends, not her teachers, not even photographs showed what she described. But she spent hours studying herself in mirrors, avoiding bright lighting, and deleting pictures before anyone else could even look at them. Eventually, she stopped going to birthday parties because she couldn't survive the idea of candid photos. That's the part parents often misunderstand. Body dysmorphia is not about attention. Most of these kids desperately want less attention. Then there are the boys. Parents overlook boys constantly because people still think appearance anxiety belongs mostly to girls. Meanwhile, teenage boys are spiraling over height, muscles, jawlines, hairlines, things they can barely control at their age anyway. I've seen boys become obsessed with the gym, not because they love fitness, but because they panic every time they feel small. A 13-year-old child should not feel emotionally destroyed because he doesn't resemble a Marvel superhero built by 3 nutritionists and illegal amounts of protein powder. And yet, here we are. What makes adolescence especially brutal is that the teenage brain is under construction. Emotionally, socially, neurologically, it's chaos with Wi Fi. The part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and long term reasoning is still developing, while the social sensitivity system is basically operating at full volume, which means embarrassment feels enormous, rejection feels catastrophic, being laughed at feels like public execution. So when a child says, "Everyone's staring at me," they may genuinely experience that fear as real, even if nobody actually notices the thing they're obsessing over. Now, here's where parents accidentally make things worse without realizing it. A child says, "My nose looks weird," and the parent immediately responds, "You're being ridiculous. You look fine. Stop worrying about your appearance." Logical? Sure. Helpful? Usually not, because reassurance alone doesn't fix distorted thinking. If anything, some kids start chasing reassurance like caffeine. They need it over and over and over again. Do I look okay now? What about now? Are you sure? Promise? It becomes exhausting for everybody. And underneath all of this is something many parents never see clearly enough. These kids are not fishing for compliments. Most of them are terrified of judgment, terrified of humiliation, terrified that one flaw will make them socially unacceptable. In a world where every awkward moment can be photographed, reposted, zoomed in on, and discussed before lunch period ends. Honestly, when I was younger, if you had a bad haircut, maybe 5 people noticed. Today, a bad haircut can become content. Now, let me tell you where this thing really mutates into something dangerous: the internet. Because once upon a time, children compared themselves to the people around them. A few classmates, maybe a cousin who somehow looked airbrushed straight out of the womb. That was it. Now, your child wakes up every morning and competes against millions of edited faces before brushing their teeth. And we adults are still acting shocked when their self esteem collapses like a folding chair at a family reunion. You know what fascinates me? Kids today don't just take photos anymore, they manage images. They curate themselves like tiny, exhausted celebrities with no publicist and unlimited anxiety. I watched a teenager once spend 20 minutes trying to make a casual picture look casual. Child, if it requires 20 minutes, it has left the casual building entirely. But psychologically, this makes perfect sense. Social media platforms are engineered around comparison, not connection. Comparison. The algorithm quickly learns what triggers attention, envy, insecurity, attraction, and obsession. Then it feeds children an endless buffet of perfect faces, bodies, skin, hair, lifestyles, and transformations. And the terrifying part: many of those faces don't even exist in real life. Filters smooth skin, apps reshape jawlines, cameras distort facial proportions depending on angles and lenses. Some kids are literally becoming dysmorphic over a filtered version of themselves. Think about how psychologically strange that is. They're not trying to look like another person anymore. They're trying to look like an edited hallucination of themselves. That's a very modern kind of emotional torture. Girls often get hit first and hardest publicly. Tiny waists, perfect skin, full lips, symmetry, hairlines, eyelashes, clean girl aesthetics, glow ups. By 13, some girls already know more about anti aging products than taxes. That should concern everybody. But boys are quietly drowning too. Teenage boys are now absorbing impossible standards from fitness influencers, athletes, gaming culture, action heroes, and hypermasculine social media personalities screaming about alpha energy from rented Lamborghinis. Suddenly, a perfectly normal 14-year-old thinks his shoulders are too narrow and his chest isn't developed enough, as if puberty operates on a strict delivery schedule. And then comes the dopamine loop. A child posts a photo. They wait. Notifications arrive. Tiny bursts of validation hit the brain. Likes become emotional evidence. No likes starts feeling like rejection. One rude comment becomes a full psychological investigation. Kids begin monitoring themselves constantly. How do I look? How am I perceived? Do people approve of me? Am I attractive enough? Cool enough? Thin enough? Muscular enough? And after a while, some children stop developing identities naturally. Instead, they start performing identities. Every outfit becomes strategy. Every photo becomes branding. Every interaction becomes image management. That is exhausting for a developing brain. And this is where parents accidentally underestimate the scale of the problem. They think their child is just on the phone too much. No. Sometimes that phone is functioning like a 24-hour comparison machine attached directly to your child's nervous system. I've even seen children become terrified of being photographed unexpectedly because candid pictures feel uncontrollable. No filters, no editing, no retakes, just reality. And reality starts feeling offensive when a child's brain has adapted to digitally perfected images all day long. The cruel irony is this: the more kids obsess over appearance online, the less secure they usually feel offline. Because confidence built on constant approval is fragile. One bad picture can shatter it by lunchtime. Now, this is the part that makes parents uncomfortable, not because it's cruel, but because it's familiar. A lot of families accidentally feed body dysmorphia without realizing they're doing it. Not intentionally. Most parents are trying their best. But children absorb emotional patterns the way white shirts absorb spaghetti sauce, immediately and permanently. You can tell a child looks don't matter. But if the entire household operates like appearance is a full-time job, they won't believe a word of it. I once watched a mother criticize her own body for nearly 10 straight minutes while her daughter sat quietly eating cereal, complaining about her stomach, her wrinkles, her arms, her weight after vacation. The daughter barely spoke, but you could practically see her downloading the information into her nervous system in real time. Because children don't just listen to parents, they study them. If a parent constantly pinches their stomach in the mirror, the child learns bodies are problems to fix. If a parent panics about aging, the child learns appearance determines value. If a parent comments on everybody's weight at weddings, parties, church, school pickup, congratulations. The child now believes human beings are evaluated visually before emotionally. And some parents unknowingly turn appearance into a family sport. Your cousin is so slim now. You'd be handsome if you worked out more. That dress would look better if you lost a little weight. Don't eat too much. Go fix your face before guests arrive. Adults say these things casually. Kids remember them like court evidence. And sometimes the problem isn't criticism, it's overpraise. Parents who focus almost entirely on beauty can accidentally create children who believe attractiveness is their primary source of worth. Every compliment becomes, "You're so pretty. You're handsome. You'll break hearts one day." Sounds harmless, right? Until the child starts panicking anytime they feel less than attractive. Because if beauty becomes identity, then flaws start feeling like identity collapse. That's why some children completely unravel during puberty. Their bodies change unevenly. Skin breaks out, weight fluctuates, features shift, hormones behave like they were designed by chaos engineers. And suddenly, the child who built their confidence mainly around appearance feels emotionally stranded. What's especially heartbreaking is how many parents criticize themselves openly in front of their kids without realizing the long-term impact. I've heard mothers call themselves fat while standing beside daughters with the exact same body type. I've heard fathers mock their own height while their sons quietly stare at the floor. Children connect dots frighteningly fast. And then there's perfectionism, body dysmorphia's annoying best friend. Some kids already have personalities wired toward overthinking, high standards, anxiety, and self-monitoring. These children are especially vulnerable because they don't just want to look good, they want flawlessness, control, certainty. But human bodies refuse to cooperate with perfectionism. Faces aren't symmetrical, skin changes, puberty is awkward. Genetics do whatever they want. No amount of mirror checking can create permanent reassurance. That's why some kids get trapped in obsessive loops, checking mirrors, fixing hair repeatedly, changing clothes 10 times, deleting photos, comparing themselves constantly. And parents often misread it as vanity, when it's actually anxiety wearing fashionable shoes. The biggest mindset shift parents need is this: caring about appearance is normal. Teenagers have always cared about appearance. That's not the issue. The danger begins when appearance becomes the child's entire measurement of worth. Because once a child starts believing, if I don't look right, I'm not acceptable, everything else in their emotional life starts shaking with it. You know what's truly exhausting about body dysmorphia? It's not just that kids dislike how they look. Plenty of people dislike parts of their appearance sometimes. That's human. Body dysmorphia is different because the child's brain starts treating the flaw like an emergency alarm that never shuts off. Imagine trying to do homework while your mind keeps screaming, "Your face looks wrong. People are staring. Everybody notices. You look disgusting. Fix it. Hide it." Now imagine that loop running all day. That's why some children become irritable, withdrawn, or strangely aggressive. Parents think, why is my child so moody lately? Meanwhile, the child feels like they're mentally fighting their own reflection from morning until bedtime. And the frightening part is how real it feels to them. You can stand there saying, you look perfectly fine, but their brain processes the flaw as undeniable truth. Some kids become obsessed with tiny details nobody else would notice in a million years. A slight asymmetry, skin texture, nose shape, hairline, weight fluctuations, acne, teeth, height, shoulders, jawline, anything. And because the obsession creates anxiety, kids start building routines to manage the anxiety. One teenager may spend an hour getting ready before school because every outfit suddenly feels wrong. Another avoids mirrors completely because seeing themselves ruins their mood for the entire day. Some refuse swimming pools, sports, sleepovers, or video calls. Others hide under oversized hoodies in blazing heat because being seen feels unbearable. And then comes the social damage. This condition quietly steals experiences from children. I knew about a girl who stopped attending birthday parties because she couldn't handle group photos anymore. Not because anybody bullied her. She bullied herself harder than anyone else ever could. Then there was a boy who became so fixated on his body that he avoided basketball, even though he loved it. He thought he looked too skinny beside the other boys. Imagine losing joy over something nobody else was even measuring. That's what parents need to understand. Dysmorphia shrinks a child's world. Slowly, quietly, piece by piece. And unfortunately, it rarely travels alone. Body dysmorphia often overlaps with anxiety disorders, depression, obsessive thinking patterns, eating disorders, and social withdrawal. Some children become trapped in constant checking behaviors, looking in mirrors, taking repeated selfies, seeking reassurance, comparing themselves online, touching or fixing the problem area repeatedly. Others swing in the opposite direction and avoid everything entirely. No photos, no social events, no eye contact, no mirrors, no trying new things. Both behaviors are driven by the same fear. What makes this especially painful during adolescence is that identity is still forming. Teenagers are already asking, who am I? Where do I fit in? Am I accepted? Now add appearance obsession to that emotional soup, and things get messy quickly. And here's something many adults underestimate. Kids with body dysmorphia are often deeply ashamed of how much they think about their appearance. They know it sounds irrational. Some even feel embarrassed admitting it. So instead of opening up, they hide it behind jokes. I'm ugly. My face is cursed. I look terrible. Nobody wants to see this. Parents laugh nervously. Friends say, stop fishing for compliments. But sometimes those comments are not jokes at all. They're distress signals wrapped in humor because humor feels safer than vulnerability. And when kids feel dismissed repeatedly, they often stop talking altogether. That silence is dangerous. Because a child who feels trapped inside constant appearance anxiety can slowly lose confidence in school, friendships, hobbies, dating, creativity, everything. Their energy becomes consumed by self-monitoring. And no child should have to spend their teenage years feeling like their own body is the enemy. So, what should parents actually do when they suspect body dysmorphia? First, stop turning every conversation into a courtroom debate about appearance. A child says, I hate my face, and parents immediately rush in like emergency defense attorneys. You're beautiful. You're handsome. That's ridiculous. No, you're not. The intention is loving. The result is usually frustration. Because when a child genuinely believes something is wrong with their appearance, arguing often makes them feel misunderstood instead of supported. Their brain isn't calmly evaluating evidence like a detective show. It's reacting emotionally. What helps more is curiosity instead of correction. What makes you feel that way? When do you notice these feelings the most? Does something happen before you start thinking about it? Those questions open doors. Arguments usually slam them shut. And parents need to resist the urge to mock or minimize appearance concerns, even when they sound irrational. Teenagers already feel embarrassed enough. If a child feels laughed at, they'll simply become more secretive. Now, that doesn't mean parents should reinforce obsessive thinking either. There's a difference between validating feelings and validating distortions. You can say, that sounds really stressful, without agreeing that the child is ugly or defective. That balance matters. Another major shift: families need to stop making appearance the center of the household atmosphere. Some homes unintentionally operate like beauty pageants with Wi Fi. Constant discussions about weight, skin, aging, attractiveness, diets, gym progress, hair, makeup, clothing sizes. Kids absorb all of it. Children need repeated reminders that their value extends beyond visual presentation. Not fake motivational poster nonsense either. Real, specific identity building. Praise effort, humor, kindness, creativity, problem solving, persistence, curiosity, leadership, resilience. A child who develops confidence in multiple areas becomes less emotionally dependent on appearance alone. And honestly, some kids desperately need experiences that have nothing to do with being looked at. Sports, music, art, volunteering, debate, cooking, building things, outdoor activities, anything that reconnects them with what their body can do instead of how it appears. That shift is powerful psychologically. Parents should also pay attention to digital environments without becoming surveillance detectives. The goal is guidance, not turning the house into a low budget FBI operation. If a child's entire feed revolves around beauty comparisons, hyper editing, extreme fitness culture, or appearance based validation, it will affect mental health eventually. Algorithms are not neutral. They feed insecurities because insecurities keep people engaged. Sometimes small adjustments help: less appearance focused content, more offline time, healthier creators, reduced filter use. Conversations about edited images and unrealistic standards. Not lectures, conversations. And parents need to model healthier behavior too. This part matters more than people realize. If adults constantly insult themselves in mirrors, obsess over flaws, or panic about aging, children learn that self criticism is normal adulthood behavior. Kids notice everything, even the things parents think they're hiding. Now, when should families seek professional help? When the obsession starts interfering with daily life. If a child is avoiding school, social events, eating normally, hobbies, photos, friendships, or functioning because of appearance fears, that's no longer just insecurity. If the distress becomes obsessive, emotionally consuming, or tied to anxiety and depression, therapy can help tremendously, especially therapies that address distorted thinking patterns, anxiety regulation, self worth, and obsessive behaviors. And parents should remember something important here. The goal is not raising children who think they're gorgeous every second of the day. That's unrealistic. Even emotionally healthy adults have insecure moments. The real goal is raising children whose entire sense of worth doesn't collapse because of a bad photo, acne breakout, awkward phase, or imperfect feature. Because eventually, kids who feel emotionally safe stop spending every waking hour trying to earn the right to exist through appearance. One of the saddest things about modern parenting is realizing how many children are quietly at war with their own reflection. Not because they're shallow, not because they're spoiled, not because they want attention. Most of the time, they're scared. Scared of rejection, scared of humiliation, scared that if they don't look right, they won't be accepted, loved, admired, or even noticed in a world that constantly ranks people visually before emotionally. And honestly, that's a heavy burden for a developing brain to carry. But here's the hopeful part: children who feel emotionally secure eventually stop treating appearance like a survival test. When kids are valued for more than how they look, their world gets bigger again. They laugh more freely, They participate more confidently. They stop monitoring themselves every 5 seconds like unpaid security guards for their own faces. That kind of healing doesn't happen overnight, but it absolutely can happen. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you noticed any of these signs in your own child? Or even in yourself growing up? What helped? What worried you the most? I read the comments carefully, and I may personally reply to some of you. And if this video helped you understand your child a little better, make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more conversations about parenting, teenage psychology, and the emotional realities nobody warns families about until they're already living through them.